There is breaking news tonight in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Investigators have reportedly uncovered more images from her home camera captured before her disappearance. And tonight as well, the sheriff is raising real concerns that the kidnapper could potentially strike again.
We need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
Something deeply disturbing happened inside Nancy Guthrie's home, and investigators say the person responsible may have planned it carefully, because this wasn't just a burglary. This was something far more unsettling. On January 31st, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, suddenly vanished from her Tucson home.
For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. Someone out there knows something.
Are stressing this morning, whoever provides the crucial tip that leads to Nancy Guthrie can be eligible for that $1 million reward and still choose to remain anonymous, Michael.
But the strangest part, the person who took her may have known exactly what they were doing. And some people are now asking a chilling question. Was Nancy Guthrie targeted, or could someone close to the family know more than they're saying?
With us once again in Tucson, Arizona. Kelly, what more are we learning about that latest news about the DNA found on a glove a couple of miles from Nancy's house?
Well, the snapshot we are getting from investigators is that there's a lot of evidence that they've been dealing with, and a glove and other gloves have been talked about a lot publicly, and they have taken testing of those. They have established DNA profile, and then they've compared it against that database that you referred to, which includes persons all across the country who've been arrested or charged or convicted with a crime. There are differing laws state by state about when someone who's taken into custody must provide their DNA. But it is a vast database, and certainly if there were a criminal history, that would be a good way to identify a potential depositor of that DNA. Then, is it in some way linked to the Guthrie case? That's another big question. So work is being done. There are hundreds of investigators who are on this case working on a stream of different types of approaches. We know, for example, that they have been canvassing gun stores in the area. Why? Because the suspect seen on that doorbell video had a weapon, had a holster that had some interesting identifying markers that authorities are trying to get a better read on. Where was it purchased? What could they learn about that?
Authorities in Arizona are investigating the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Investigators say a masked suspect was seen outside her home before she vanished. At first, everything seemed normal. Nancy Guthrie had spent the evening inside her Tucson home. She was last seen around 9:50 p.m. After that, something changed. Investigators later discovered that around 1:47 a.m., Nancy's home experienced a sudden internet and electrical disruption. That alone was unusual, but then something even more alarming happened. Nancy's pacemaker monitor, which normally sends a signal every night, failed to transmit at 2:28 a.m. That meant Nancy may have been taken sometime between those two moments, and investigators believe whoever entered the house may have spent up to 40 minutes inside. 40 minutes inside the home of an elderly woman in the middle of the night. But the most chilling clue came from a doorbell camera. The video shows a masked man standing outside Nancy Guthrie's home. He's wearing a ski mask, dark clothing, and a hiking backpack. Authorities say the suspect appears to be around 5'9" to 5'10" tall. He was also carrying what appears to be a holster, which raises another disturbing possibility. Was this person armed? Even stranger, investigators say some of the clothing worn by the suspect appears to have been purchased from Walmart, almost as if someone deliberately chose generic items to avoid being traced. But what investigators found next raised even more questions, because Nancy Guthrie didn't simply disappear. There were signs that something happened at the house. Authorities discovered blood droplets on the walkway outside the home, and investigators confirmed that the blood came from a living person, which suggests Nancy may have been injured while being taken from the house. But here's where things become even more confusing. police say nothing valuable appeared to be stolen. No jewelry, no electronics, nothing, which immediately made investigators question the original theory. Because if this wasn't a robbery, then why was Nancy Guthrie taken? Recently, the sheriff leading the investigation revealed something surprising. He believes Nancy may have been specifically targeted. According to Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, investigators are developing a theory about why the suspect may have chosen Nancy, but authorities are still being careful about what they reveal, because the motive behind this crime remains unclear. However, some people believe Nancy's connection to her daughter, Savannah, may have played a role. Savannah Guthrie is one of the most recognizable anchors on The Today Show, which means Nancy Guthrie was not entirely unknown. In fact, Nancy had appeared on the program multiple times, and within the last year, Savannah even filmed a special segment from Tucson, where her family lives. That broadcast showed Nancy and other family members, and it confirmed something important. Nancy lived in Tucson, possibly even revealing where she lived. But there is one detail that investigators find particularly suspicious: the internet outage. Authorities say Nancy's internet connection suddenly went offline during the window when she disappeared, and investigators are trying to determine whether that outage was intentional. If someone deliberately disabled the connection, it would suggest planning, and that would mean the person responsible may have studied the house beforehand. Even stranger, investigators also found a damaged utility box near the home. Right now, authorities say they don't know if the damage is related, but the timing has raised eyebrows. As the investigation continued, the FBI joined the case. Search warrants were issued, multiple people were questioned, but despite weeks of investigation, no arrests have been made. Authorities also recovered a glove near the property. Initially, investigators believed it might belong to the suspect, but when the DNA was tested, it led to someone completely unrelated to the case, a local restaurant worker. Another dead end.
As forensic scientists believe DNA now could hold the keys to this case. Our Brian Enton back for us once again. Tucson, Arizona tonight with the very latest. Brian?
Yeah, hey, Blake. It's day 41, if you can believe it, in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm still outside Nancy's house here, and there's been quite a few developments over the last 24 hours. You mentioned it. First of all, reports that the FBI now has images from other cameras on Nancy Guthrie's property. Remember, we first only saw the images in the video from the Google Nest camera right on Nancy's front door. We were wondering, because we knew there were other cameras, one on the side, one in the back near the pool, and we are learning now that the FBI was able to obtain images from those other cameras, but here's the catch. It's not video, it's actually only thumbnail images. So every time motion was detected, apparently a thumbnail image was created, and that is what the FBI has. They don't have the full images or the videos, just the little thumbnails. And we are told that anything around the time frame of when Nancy was abducted is missing, is not there, which is kind of interesting to think about why that time frame is missing. You know, there's been these questions about, was there like a signal blocker used? Some other neighbors reported internet outage.
Meanwhile, investigators say they are still analyzing mixed DNA found at the crime scene, and they hope that evidence could eventually lead to the person responsible. Then, weeks later, investigators made another discovery. On March 12th, authorities located a body in a desert area near Kolb Road. For a moment, many feared the worst. Could it be Nancy Guthrie? But investigators soon announced something unexpected. They currently believe the body is unlikely to be Nancy, which means the search for her continues. And as the mystery deepens, theories have started circulating online. Some people believe the abductor may have been someone familiar with Nancy's routine, perhaps someone who worked in the neighborhood, a landscaper, a contractor, or someone who had been inside the house before. Others believe the crime may have been a kidnapping attempt that went wrong, but there is another theory that has begun circulating online, one that investigators have not confirmed. Some people are asking whether someone within Nancy's extended circle could be involved, possibly someone who knew she lived alone and knew exactly when to strike. At this point, there is no evidence confirming that theory, but investigators have not ruled out the possibility that the suspect knew the victim. Meanwhile, the Guthrie family has taken a dramatic step. They're offering a $1 million reward for information leading to Nancy's recovery. Posters have appeared across Tucson, neighbors have held vigils, and the community continues to search for answers. Savannah Guthrie has thanked supporters publicly, but the family remains devastated because right now, they still don't know what happened to Nancy. More than 6 weeks have now passed since Nancy vanished, and the case remains one of the most puzzling investigations in Arizona. Investigators are still searching for the masked man seen outside the home, but the biggest questions remain unanswered. Why was Nancy Guthrie taken? Was it a random crime, or was she specifically targeted? And perhaps the most disturbing question of all, could the person responsible still be out there? Right now, investigators say the suspect could strike again, which means someone somewhere knows the truth about what happened that night. The question is, who? And until that answer is found, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie remains a mystery. So, what do you think really happened? Let us know your theory in the comments.